What is up, guys? Dennis here. I'm back with a new video today. Today's topic is, for a dream to succeed, another has to die. I think that's the unfortunate truth that we all sort of live in today's age. That's in our lives, more often than not, there will come a time where you're gonna have to choose between several paths laying out before you. There's going to be a moment where there will be crossroads, and there will be a time where you have to decide which path you want to go down. And in doing so, there's an element of sacrifice that comes with that. If you go down one of these paths, you may gain one thing but lose another. And then same thing for the rest of them. And I just feel like that's just a truth that we all have to internalize when it comes to making decisions, especially ones that sort of will make a big impact on the trajectory of our lives as a whole. And I see a lot of people talking about their past, thinking about, oh, like, what if I did this instead and went down this path? How things would have been different, how things would have been so much better. And I think it's sometimes cool to think about, possible timelines and things that could have happened. But again, all that sort of falls into the realm of, could have, would have, should have, what isn't real. You ended up making a choice and you sort of have to commit to it. And then to make the best out of it. And so I think for anyone going through like a crossroads sort of situation, I think you just have to trust your gut, trust your instincts, and then commit to that decision. Go all in on it, and to not do it half-heartedly or be hesitant, because that's when the real suffering can come. And I sort of wanted to touch on this more with a story of mine from my college career. The choice that I had to make halfway through college of whether I sort of wanted to live the more normal life or I wanted to go down the route of college athletics. So I guess just for starters, I came to UNC in fall of 2021, and I had won my high school state championship in singles for tennis back in May, I believe. And I was sort of wondering if I wanted to play college tennis or not. I reached out to a few D3 schools. I had some conversations, but nothing really excited me enough for me to give up, going to UNC, which is a great school. And a lot of my friends were going there, and I wasn't sure if playing D3 tennis was something I would have wanted to give up for that experience at UNC. And so I ended up going to UNC, of course, and in those first few weeks of college, I sort of came to terms with the fact that I was likely not going to play college tennis ever. And I was barely playing tennis within those first few weeks, and I wasn't really sure what path I wanted to go down. I ended up taking a position with the team to basically help them out, the varsity team at UNC, basically, because I still felt ties to tennis, and I still wanted to be involved somehow. And that's sort of what happened there. But in doing so, I was sort of, in the college, I was sort of half into athletics and sort of half into the normal student life. I was able to make friends. There were a few really cool friend groups that I was in. I met a lot of people. And, that first year of college was really, really cool because I felt like I was involved in a few different circles, and I was sort of able to be, everywhere at once and have a taste of everything. However, I think, and then the peak of that sort of happened in fall of 2022, which was my sophomore fall. I really had solidified a great friend group, a mix of guys and girls, and it was a great time. Um, I remember, one trip finally, we went to the mountains for a weekend during that fall, and it was a really good time. And it really truly felt like I had a good group of people around me, and that they were really good friends. And I felt like, you know, and it felt good to be with them. And it felt like, I was in the right place. However, there's one thing that I couldn't shake off, and that was tennis. That I just couldn't get away from it. I couldn't give it up. And it came a time where, tennis became, or the possibility of me joining the team became more and more realistic. And I spent more and more time with the tennis guys and, practicing to get better, to improve. And I ended up sort of moving away from that friend group that I had been developing for the first year and a half or so of college, that were really great friends and I had a great time with, and that sort of symbolized for me the normal college life. And at the end of my sophomore year, when I was given a chance to make the team for the next year, of course I took it. It was what I was working for so hard. And I did have to make the sacrifice of losing friends, of losing the normal college life. And when I look back on it now, of course it's a bit, it hits you with a feeling of melancholy, like a little bit. It's bittersweet thinking about of what could have been, what should have been. But in the end, I sort of made the choice that I believe was right at the time, and I sort of stick with that decision. If I were to go back in time and do it all over again, I would. And so to wrap the story up, all the decisions that you make come with an element of sacrifice. And I do think that there's beauty in that. There's beauty in the sacrifice. There's beauty in the loss. Because I think that's sort of what makes us human in the end. Both the good and the bad sort of make up the human experience, and as we sort of go through life as a whole. So if I were to give any parting words, I guess, takeaways from my story in college, is, like I said at the beginning, is to really, follow your gut, follow your instinct, and stick to your decision no matter what. And to sort of, be brave and be courageous with what you believe in and what you think is going to get you to where you want to be. And recognize the fact that, it's not going to be easy. There are going to be ups and downs, the sacrifices that you might have to make along the way, going down one path versus another. It's going to come no matter what. I think that's just, like the fact of life. And of course, dealing with that brings its own set of issues. But I believe that if you stay true to yourself, the people around you will understand the sacrifice that you had to make. If you unfortunately had to leave some people behind in your choice. So with that being said, I think that's the end of this video today. I hope it was good. I hope my story can maybe, shed some light for some people. And yeah, with that being said, I think that's about it. I'll see you guys later. Or rather, I think, going back to the title of this video, the dreams, I sort of had a dream to, be a college tennis player, but I also, really valued living a normal life. and living that normal college life that I sort of fantasize in my head. You know, sort of, you know, studying well, learning a lot, being an expert in a subject, having a great group of friends around you, which you spend your time with, from studying to lunch and dinners, and just hanging out, spending time with one another. Yeah, and for me, that was a dream that unfortunately, you know, had to die in pursuit of something else. So, yeah, as sad as it may seem, like I said, I would go back and do it all over again. So I think that's the end of this video for real this time, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.